Waking up, in the CEO's bed. I jackknifed upright. The sheet slid away. I was wearing a slip of costly silk that obviously wasn't mine. My skull felt as if someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. A chandelier the size of a small spaceship glittered overhead. I was sinking into a California king, and the air carried a sharp cedar bite undercut by a faint, unfamiliar male scent. Scattered memories rushed in. Last night, benefit gala. One flute of champagne down. The room spun. A greasy bald guy leaned in. His wandering hand, then a tall shadow stepped between us. Voice low and absolute. Williams. Enough. After that, nothing. CEO. Bed. I'm finished. 800 billion romance novels told me what comes next. The bathroom door swings open. A towel-clad Adonis, with 8-pack abs dripping water. Eyes like scalpels. Pinches my chin and growls. Woman, you plotted this? Next scene, bankruptcy. Dad clutching his chest. Mom sobbing herself blind. Me tossed abroad to rot with a one-way ticket. Cold sweat soaked my back. I flung off the blanket to bolt. The instant my feet hit the floor, my legs folded. Hangover plus panic. Zero cooperation. Wait. Too quiet. Where were the shower sounds? The frosty accusations? Nothing, but my ragged breathing filled the room. I forced myself forward, feet sinking like I was walking on cotton, and stumbled out of the blindingly luxurious bedroom. The living room was bigger, emptier, black, white, gray, and cold as a morgue. Then my gaze froze on the lone sofa in the middle. A person. A man. Black shirt tailored to perfection. 2 buttons undone over sculpted collarbones. Long legs wrapped in pressed slacks. But he looked nothing like a CEO stereotype. He was tied to the chair. Tied. Wrists. Ankles. Pink, fuzzy, bondage cuffs, Hello Kitty patterned. His head hung forward. A few strands of black hair shielded his eyes. Even trussed up, his profile could have been carved from marble. Jaw clenched. My brain exploded. Last night, I did this. I tied the guy who'd supposedly rescued me with kinky toys. Help. This beats climbing into his bed by a million. Tap dancing on my own grave. I scrambled over on hands and knees, voice shaking. Hey, are you okay? The instant my fingers brushed his ice-cold skin, his head snapped up. Those eyes, dark, fathomless. A frozen pond, now surging with rage and disbelief. They stabbed me like ice daggers. Dead, so dead. My tongue knotted, brain blank. All I could think was unlocking the mortifying restraints. Frantic fingers yanked at the furry cuffs, tighter the more I panicked. Pink fuzz rubbing his wrists. The scene absurd and hopeless. Don't touch me. Low, hoarse, thick with restrained emotion. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I'll get them off. Tears blurred my sight. My nails throbbed. I said, don't touch me. Colder now. Each word an ice pellet. The drug hasn't worn off. Drug. I froze. Looking up. Unnatural flush on his cheekbones. Breaths too quick. A film of sweat on his temple. Despite the menace, his gaze looked almost glazed. Last night's drink. That bald Williams spiked. Target. Me. So this man, collateral damage, drugged. Then, I tied him. Logic clicked. But the picture got uglier. Listen, let me explain. I tried. Explain? He tugged the corner of his mouth, a smile colder than Sub-Zero, eyes fixing on the neon pink cuffs. With this, it wasn't me. Really. I jumped like a scalded cat. I'm a victim too. A short, bitter laugh cut me off. He shut his eyes, fighting both body and fury. Name. Your name. His reopened eyes were eagle sharp, nailing me in place. And who sent you? The Lee Group. Or Luna. I'm Luna, I blurted, desperate to dodge blame. No one. I'm just collateral damage. Drugged and tossed here. Luna. He echoed, gaze sweeping my face. Hunting lies. Silence. Only his rough breathing and my heart trying to ram through my ribs. 1 second felt like a century. Finally, he spoke again. Voice still icy but commanding. Key. He flexed his cuffed wrist. Pink fluff wiggled. Right. Key. I jolted back to life, patting down frantically. The silk slip had 0 pockets. Maybe, bedroom? I glanced toward the door, unsure. His jaw tightened. Volcano about to blow. Go look. 2 words. Ground out. Why yes. I dashed back in. Bed. Floor. Vanity. Nothing. Bedside table. First drawer empty. Second drawer. A small silver key lay inside. Totally normal. Beneath it sat a single printed sheet. I grabbed the key. Scanned the paper. One glance. Blood rushed to my head. Then drained, leaving me ice numb. Black font glared. Sterling. Enjoy last night. Was Jang delicious. Don't unlock your beloved just yet. When he's free, you're dead. Want to live. Do exactly as I say. Detailed. Vicious demands followed. Signature, X, trembling. I almost dropped the paper. A trap. Someone framed us both. Bound him through me. Why? Blackmail. Leverage. Found it? His restrained, furious call came from the living room. Why yes. I snapped back. Pulse roaring. He mustn't see this. never. I crumpled the sheet, shoved it inside the pathetic bodice of my dress, the paper scraping skin. Clutching the key, I sprinted out. He was glaring at the doorway, eyes murderous. I shook so hard it took 3 tries to slot the key. Finally the wrist cuff clicked open, then the ankles. The instant the shackles fell he shot to his feet, looming, suffocating, staggered, steadied himself on the sofa back. The drug was clearly still in his system. He looked down at the neon pink cuffs lying on the carpet, his face ashen, a vein twitching at his temple. Then he lifted his head. His gaze slammed into me, heavy with suspicion and cold appraisal. Luna, my name came out like a Siberian wind. You'd better pray you can give me a perfect explanation. Otherwise, he didn't finish. His eyes said the rest. My tiny company, my father's heart, my mother's eyes, all of them strobe flashed across my mind. I was finished. There was no explaining this away. I dragged in a lungful of air. Terror and the icy sting of the note stuffed in my dress forced my brain into sudden, razor-sharp focus. In that split second, a reckless idea detonated. Time to gamble. I lifted my chin, met his freezing stare, and forced my trembling voice to hold steady. Jiang. Adrian? A flicker in his eyes. Confirmation. The legend himself. Ruthless. Untouchable. You want an explanation? I pulled a smile that felt uglier than a sob. The explanation is that if I hadn't tied you up, you might be dead right now. The living room fell dead. The air solidified. In Adrian's bottomless black irises, the rage was swallowed by something colder, pure, incredulous disbelief. He had probably never heard an excuse this absurd in his life. Dead, he echoed, the word a low growl laced with mocking disbelief. Luna, are you testing the lower limits of my IQ? Or just shopping for a funnier excuse? It's true. I threw caution out the window, heart drumming against my ribs. My voice jumped an octave, desperate and defiant. Someone tried to kill you, last night, right in this room. I clenched my fists, nails carving crescents into my palms, using the pain to anchor myself as I stared into eyes that could slice open a lie. I wasn't fully conscious, but I saw a shadow. I blurted. He had something in his hand, moving toward you. I don't know why, instinct, maybe, or plain terror. I felt those. I pointed at the fuzzy pink cuffs, cheeks on fire, and I strapped you down. Then I blacked out. Half-truth. The shadow was real, I guessed. Tying him up was X's doing, but I had to own it or sink. Adrian stayed silent, expression storm dark. He strode to the floor-to-ceiling window, back to me, shoulders like cut steel. Sunlight etched a hard contour around him. Seconds stretched into forever, each one a blade on my skin. Just when the quiet threatened to shred my last nerve, he turned. His gaze was scalpel-sharp. What did the shadow look like? Motionless, low, features. The note never mentioned any. Too dark to see a face. I improvised, but his left wrist had a watch. The dial was navy, with a faint glow. Yes, navy luminous dial. Pure invention. I was betting somebody in his circle wore one, or that he'd buy the lie. A microscopic tightening of Adrian's pupils, there, then gone, but I caught it. He pinned me, drilling for the truth. What else? And nothing. I shook my head. Palms slick. That's all. I swear. Jiang, I know how insane this sounds. If I'm lying, do whatever you want with me. Why would I cut you free? Why not finish you while you were out? I widened my eyes, layering sincerity over terror. He still said nothing, just pulled out his phone, dialed, voice flaked with ice. Shane, pull every frame from last night's penthouse suite cameras, corridors, service stairs, the lot, then track Li Guofu's movements after he left, and flag anyone wearing a navy luminous dial on the left wrist. Inside people first. The call clicked off. His gaze returned. Twin scalpels slicing deep. Luna, 24. Only daughter of Sterling. Sterling circling the drain. Desperate for cash. Last night's gala invitation cost her father every remaining favor he had. Target, Anderson from Prosper Capital. The final lifeline. Zhao never showed. He advanced. Slow, deliberate. Every syllable hammered my chest. So, he stopped inches away, breath chilling my skin. A bankrupt heiress winds up in my room, pulls a stunt like this, a contemptuous glance at the cuffs, and now claims she saved my life? His logic locked like iron bars. My motive fit the gold digger narrative perfectly. Cold sweat glazed my spine. The crumpled note between my breasts burned like a branding iron. I couldn't confess X would murder my family. What now? Then, insane or not, a new plan blazed through my head. Fake surrender. Fight for survival. I straightened, dropped every pretense, and stared right back. Defiance, despair, and a flicker of raw grievance braided together. Your analysis is flawless, Jiang. I said, voice soft but steady. Sterling is weeks from collapse. I clung to that party because it was our last shot. As for how I ended up in your room, if I said someone drugged me and I staggered in by accident, would you believe it? A dry, broken laugh slipped out, acceptance of defeat. I wouldn't believe it either. A washed-up heiress who accidentally walks into your suite. Accidentally it gets dosed. Accidentally it foils an assassination. And accidentally rescues you with kinky handcuffs. Even I'd call that script trash. Surprise flickered across Adrian's face. He hadn't expected self-mockery. So, he demanded, tone glacial. So I stop arguing. I inhaled, eyes never leaving his. Call the cops right now? Trespass. Assault. Whatever label fits. Crush Sterling today. Ship me overseas tomorrow. Your call. I squared my shoulders, lifted my chin, voice shaking yet crystal clear. I only ask one thing. Find out who drugged me and who wanted you dead. If it turns out I lied, I'll take any punishment you hand out. But if some part of this train wreck actually kept you alive, then please, my throat tightened, for my father, for 40-some employees clinging to their jobs, leave us a lifeline. I closed my eyes when I finished speaking, surrendering to fate, my heart hammering so hard it felt ready to punch through my ribs. I was gambling that a man perched at the very apex of the pyramid of Adrian, possessed an instinctive vigilance toward conspiracy, handed danger, far stronger than any disgust for a woman who had failed to crawl into his bed. Gambling that the enemy hiding in the shadows, the one who wanted him dead, mattered more to him. Gambling that even a 1% suspicion would make him investigate before he crushed an ant like me. Time solidified again. Every second stretched unbearably. I could feel his glacial, razor-sharp gaze sweeping across my face like a searchlight hunting for the tiniest flaw. I had no idea how long passed. Maybe 10 seconds. Maybe a century. Shane, I'm sending you the pin, he said, voice arctic, into his phone. Bring 2 men up to handle this. And get a women's set. Size S. He ended the call. His eyes returned to me, still freezing, yet the murderous urge to grind me into dust seemed slightly leashed. Until I know exactly what happened, he said, tone flat, ironclad, you stay here, nowhere else. I'd won the bet. Step 1. My strung-tight nerves snapped loose. My legs almost folded. I bit my lip hard, bracing against the wall, and whispered, okay. Soon the doorbell chimed. A young man in a black suit, cold face, keener eyes, stepped in, trailed by 2 equally lethal-looking guards. This had to be Shane. Shane took in the scene, the fuzzy pink cuffs glaring from the carpet, my expensive but crumpled dress, and his boss's thundercloud expression, flashed a microsecond of pure shock, then snapped back to Arctic professionalism. Adrian, Shane said with a slight bow, gaze disciplined forward. Get rid of them, Adrian ordered, pointing at the floor, voice flat. One guard produced a cloth, scooped up the cuffs with hazmat speed, and sealed them away. Luna, come with me, Shane said, businesslike, offering a paper bag. I accepted it. New clothes, head to toe, size, dead on. Heat scalded my cheeks. I ducked my head and followed him into what looked like a guest room. The moment the door shut, I slid down the panel and sat on the carpet. Every ounce of strength gone. My back was soaked and icy, trembling. I fished the sweat-softened scrap of paper from my cleavage and unfolded it carefully. If you want to live, do exactly as I say. 1. Stay by Adrian's side. Win his trust. Become his woman. 2. Steal the core data on next week's takeover between Riverdale Capital and Vantage. 3. Wait for further orders, no tricks. Lives of the 3 Shin family members rest on your whim. The instant you breathe a word to Adrian, your father will suffer a sudden heart attack. Your mother will receive news of his accidental death. And a certain riveting video of your unforgettable night. X. Each word was a poison needle jabbed into my eyes, twisting into my heart. I clamped a hand over my mouth to strangle the scream clawing up my throat. Tears gushed, fury, terror, despair, washing over me like Arctic tides. Who was X? How did he or she know Adrian's schedule, drug me so precisely, learn my family's crisis, obtain leverage over my father's life? And a video. What video? Besides the assassin, someone else had been filming. Cold shot from my soles to my skull. I'd become a pawn on someone else's chessboard, used against Adrian while my family's lives dangled on the player's strings. Cops were out. X could carry out the threat. Confessing to Adrian. Too risky. My family would pay. What then? I hugged my knees, huddled on the icy floor, mind racing. How would X contact me? What would the next order be? Was Dad safe right now? There seemed only one escape. Destroy X, find him, her, before they moved, and use Adrian's power to protect Sterling. Dancing on knives, snatching fire with bare hands, but I had no choice. I wiped my eyes. Resolve hardened, edged with desperate ruthlessness. X, you want a game? Fine, I'll play to the end. I changed quickly into Shane's offerings. Plain white tee, pale blue jeans, sneakers. The perfect fit nearly made me cry again. I stepped out into a living room restored to sterile perfection, as if the absurd pink-cuffed kidnapping had never happened. Only the lingering cedar chill in the air proclaimed whose territory this was. Adrian wasn't there. Shane stood sentinel near the entry, expressionless. Luna, Adrian is in the study. You may use the public areas of the suite but cannot leave. All devices stay with me for now. He extended a hand. I surrendered my phone without hesitation. I didn't dare leave anyway. Thanks, I murmured, schooling my face to quiet harmlessness. I drifted to the huge window. From the penthouse, the city glittered below, breathtaking and brutally cold. Time crawled. I paced, replaying the note, imagining possibilities. Next order. Dad's safety. The method of contact. Lunch arrived, exquisite, tasteless. Finally, in the afternoon, the study door opened. Adrian emerged in charcoal loungewear, less savage yet still domineering, tablet in hand, brows darkened by fresh frost. My heart rocketed into my throat. He strode to the couch, tossed the tablet onto 9 RKN 6 AAF SI9, accordion RKN 6 8th coffee table with a sharp slap. Luna, he said, gaze an abyss. Adrian. I snapped upright, wringing the hem of my shirt. The surveillance was tampered with, he stated. Voice neutral. Footage from the penthouse corridor outside your room last night was looped. Professional job. Just as I'd feared, X had planned every inch. Liquafu, he continued, eyes dissecting me, went straight home after the gala, rock-solid alibi. My stomach sank. The thread snapped. As for deep blue luminous watches, he went on, gaze darkening. 3 insiders, executives or core security, own similar models. One of them is my cousin, Derek. He attended the gala and, a cold smirk, has been cozying up to Vantage lately. Vantage, the very acquisition Target X had mentioned in his instructions. My pupils shrank. Coincidence? Or something else? Adrian caught every flicker on my face. He leaned in, the air around him compressing. Luna, the intel you just handed me is laser-focused. So focused it makes me suspect you even more. His gaze was a blowtorch, peeling away skin to expose the fear and secrets huddled at my core. A woman who just happened to stumble on a murder, who just happened to notice the killer's distinctive watch, who just happened to link that watch to someone in my circle, and now to Vantage's takeover. Tell me, each happened dropped another degree colder? Do you really believe the universe serves up that many coincidences? He rose and stepped over, towering until his shadow swallowed me. Talk, he said, voice pitched low. A lure and a final warning. Who's backing you? What did they promise? Sterling Reborn. Or, something richer? His chilled fingertips brushed the air beneath my chin. Terror welded my joints. X's threats echoed. Dad's life dangled by a thread. I could never confess. The instant his skin almost met mine, I jerked back as if scalded, eyes blazing with injustice and reckless fury. Voice cracking, Adrian, is everyone on the planet out to get you? Am I automatically some pawn because I'm small fry? Fine, doubt me. Call the cops, do it now. Dust for prints, swab for DNA, trace those damn drugs, rip the surveillance apart, figure out what your cousin was really doing last night. I stabbed a finger at the floor where the fuzzy pink cuffs had lain. Tears finally spilling, real, not staged, fueled by fear, humiliation, pressure. Look at that thing. Look at this cheap knockoff dress I changed into. I may be desperate to save Dad's company, but I'm not so low I'd pull this stunt. And I sure as hell don't have the juice to swap security feeds or hire assassins. If I did, would Sterling be bankrupt? I swiped angrily at my cheeks. Voice hoarse a yes. My lead points at Derek. At Vantage. It's coincidence, period. The only detail my brain recorded while I was fighting for air. You ask who's behind me. Behind me is a father frantic to keep creditors from his throat, a mother on an operating table, and dozens of workers counting on next month's pay. Gulping air, chest heaving. I glared through bloodshot eyes. Disbelieve me. Toss me out. Toss me in jail. I don't care. But if somebody tried to kill you last night and you turn the only witness, coerced or not, into your enemy, you're the idiot begging for a knife in the back. The final shout left me hollow. I slid down the wall, buried my head in my knees, shoulders shaking. The living room sank into a graveyard hush, broken only by my muffled sobs. Adrian remained a statue of darkness overhead. The frost on his face seemed to crack. Black irises roiling, calculation, reappraisal, maybe a flicker of grudging respect. Half the outburst had been theater. The rest was raw truth. Terror, grievance, hatred for X, dread for my family, all real. That honesty hit harder than any polished lie. Seconds stretched like taffy. Just as I braced for security to drag me out, his voice drifted down, toneless, Done crying? I stiffened. He moved to the sofa, tapped a tablet. Shane, return Sterling's phone. Shane obliged instantly. Until I finish my audit, Adrian said, eyes lifting from the screen. You stay here. As for Sterling's debt, Shane will handle it. Payments frozen. Operations protected. I snapped my head up. Stunned. Debt freeze. Working capital. Manna from heaven. But, he added, gaze razor sharp. Don't mistake it for trust. You're a controlled variable. Until your name is cleared and X is found. Your fate and Sterling's are one. Pray I stay alive. A frigid pause. Then the clincher, and pray your innocence isn't an act. Because the price of fraud is more than you can pay. Salvation and shackles clamped around me together. Sterling could breathe, an unbelievable break. But I was now his tethered bait. Or ticking bomb. Worse. X's first order had been stay by Adrian. Earn his trust. Accidentally, I'd cleared the first hurdle. Trust. Paper thin. Balanced on a fault line. I understand. I rasped, tamping down the maelstrom inside. Shane, take her to the room. Adrian dismissed me without another glance. I followed Shane to a bedroom larger and softer than the last. When the door shut, I slumped against it, gulping air. My phone vibrated. Dad's number. I answered with shaking hands. Dad, the bank just called. Loan frozen. Creditors silent. Did you? Dad. I cut in. Throat burning. It's handled. Just for now. Look after Mom. Keep the plant running. And don't ask questions. I'll update you. I hung up and collapsed onto the plush coverlet. Round 1, survived. But the real cyclone was only gathering. I'm now Adrian's captive under microscope and X's pawn under orders. The screen lit again. Not a call. Not a text. But a self-destructing encrypted blip from an unknown number. Its single line flicking like a serpent's tongue. Nice first step. Keep it up. Await next command. X. My blood flash froze. Compiled by Frostmoon, short fiction for preview only. Do not distribute.